All right, so hamstring rolling. All right, so regular foam rollers, I find in general, unless you're crazy tight, are not as effective on the hamstrings because they require something that digs in a little bit deeper than a regular foam roller will do. Not to say this won't be effective, it'll soften things up, that's fine. But what I would encourage you to consider is getting a hold of one of these foam balls. These come in different types of density as well. This is the softer one. There's a red one that's also a little bit denser, and you can buy other ones, from different companies. Doesn't matter. This is Trigger Point Therapy. I like them a lot. And then I've got the more aggressive one here that really is quite effective on the hamstrings. This is by Hyper Ice, called the Hypersphere. It vibrates. It's made of hard plastic. It's rechargeable. It's heavy, so it's something that will take weight in your bag, but it's a really good implement. I highly encourage your purchasing this for leg stuff. It's maybe not as travelable as something light like this one though. So we'll start with this. A little less invasive, starts first, right? Rather than the aggressive one right off the bat. Okay, so hamstrings. There's two muscle groups we're gonna get at here. Biceps femoris, which is the part just below your butt. And then there's the hamstrings, which reach down from sort of the center of your back thigh down into the back side of your knee there, okay? So we're gonna work at both of these. I'm not necessarily going to delineate which I'm working on, but if I'm up here towards my butt, now I'm in my biceps femoris. Very often those muscles will take over for what the glutes ought to be doing, especially if you're somebody who's in an office setting and you're sitting down for a lot of the time. These muscles are gonna be tighter and your glutes are gonna be weaker because you're constantly stretching the glutes by being in a seated position. So these muscles are very often gonna take over for what the glute ought to be doing inside of your workouts. So it's good to make sure that these are nice and loose and pliable. Okay, so working at the biceps femoris, what I like to do with this one is just to kind of go back and forth over the surface of the ball this way. See if I can get a better angle for you there. Kind of going back and forth over the ball to really let it dig in. What might also help is that if you put the ball on a slightly raised surface, like a 1 or 2 inch raised surface, that actually allows you to put a little bit more of your body weight into it because the rest of your body will be on the ground. The ball will be slightly lifted and it'll push in a little bit deeper, and you might find that to be a little more effective. So that's just a suggestion. Taking a step or a small box or a nice big thick book or something might do the trick. Okay. Once you start to work your way down, you start getting into the hamstrings. There's a little bit more to deal with here. You can get a little bit more on the outer edge, work down. Key rule of thumb on foam rolling: do not roll over a joint. So you don't want to be rolling from the top of your knee across the knee and then down into the top part of your shin. You don't want to be doing that, okay? Because these joints are really, can be precarious, and if you put too much pressure on them, you could do some damage, especially if it's tight. So stay in the muscle fiber itself, getting down until you reach just above the back part of the knee. You don't want to be in that little knee pit. There's a lot of neuroconnectivity there and tendons and stuff like that you don't necessarily want to mess with, okay? So working across that, I like to cross my leg over the top here because it can provide a little bit more weight down into the ball, and just kind of, this is more search and destroy. You find knots, you go right at them and you stick it with them until they start to release, and then you roll on down past them. That's general rule of thumb for hamstrings. Again, this is a lot more aggressive. It's great. It really is effective. Once you've softened it up with something a little bit less aggressive, get into it with something that's got some heft to it. This one vibrates. I really like that because you can just hold it on the knot and it'll start to shake it loose, and it's a really effective way to go about it. Really excellent tool. That's hamstrings. We're going to continue on as we go, getting down through the legs, working on big muscles into smaller muscles, and then we'll start on upper body stuff really soon. Thank you.